Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Tim's Teaching Tips. In this video, I'm going to share with you a great creative writing activity called using a step book. To make our step book, I'm going to invite you to go ahead and gather these simple supplies. If you could get 3 pieces of 8.5 by 11 paper, preferably 3 different colors, and I'll show you why that's very helpful in a little bit, and a stapler. So let's get ready to make a step book. Now that we're ready to make our step book, you're going to take your 3 sheets of paper and layer them. You could take a ruler and measure out the distance of each step, but I just kind of eyeball, and fairly close to an inch or so is sufficient. Then you're going to fold up from the bottom. When you do that, you'll get 3 more steps, so you have a total of 6. Flip your paper over, staple across the top. You could do 2 or 3. I think 2 is usually pretty sufficient. And you'll notice that when we're using the different color paper, it's easy to identify the pages or the steps of the book. If everything were one color, it would be a little bit more challenging. And sometimes if we do that, the children would skip over when they intended to write on a particular page. They would skip by it just because they blended together. So there is creating the actual book. And now we're going to talk about how to create the story, the special step book. I'm sure that you could easily teach your students how to put together a step book. But in the interest of time, I usually made mine in advance and just had the children go over and retrieve one from the tub. I'd rather them spend their time on creating the actual book. So I have a couple of examples of some step books that I've made. You'll notice that you do have 6 steps. I always use my top step because it's a shorter amount of space. I use it as my title page. So I have my title, 5 Days of Autumn, and the author's name. The remaining 5 steps provide some good space for the students to write their sentences and their illustrations. So in my 5 Days of Autumn, you'll see that I have incorporated a couple of different skills. Naturally, I'm going to write some things about autumn, but take a listen to the first sentence. On the first day of autumn, I saw 2 squirrels. So, as I mentioned, we're going to give facts about autumn, but I'm also going to ask the students to use ordinal number words. So the first, they're also using number words, 2. On my second page, on the second day of autumn, I saw 3 geese migrating. So there are a variety of skills that you can incorporate into one step book. Here's another example. This is a step book story about dogs. The happy dog leaped over the giant wall. The scruffy dog buried the little bone behind the doghouse. So in this book, I'm going to be asking students to use adjectives to describe their dogs, or whatever the topic might be. But my skill that I'm focusing on is adjectives. So there are so many different skills that you can incorporate into step books. Now on both of these, you will notice, and I mentioned that the students are going to write their sentences and then do illustrations. So there's space for that. I'm not a very good artist, so I chose to use stickers for my artwork. And you could do the same thing if the circumstance calls for that. Don't forget to look at the description below to access the links for the resources to help you creating your step book. Thanks so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe.